Hello everyone, it's Maria here, and for today's craft we are going under the sea. We're making this octopus and coral reef. Let's get started. First up, you're going to need this treasure box. You're going to lightly pad it with anything you can find around the house. So I've polystyrene and bits of paper, and I'm going to fill it till it's almost full, just leaving a little gap to where we're going to put the coins. So a couple of weeks ago I went on Temu and I ordered a whole bunch of corals. I also ordered the gold coins on there, a crab, they'll have starfish, all kinds of stuff on there. So each piece was about between $1 and $6, so in the end I ended up spending a little bit. But if you're interested in making a coral reef that costs a little bit less, check out my YouTube video where I made a coral reef out of expandable spray foam. I made the coral reef rock out of polystyrene cake bases, and I just cut them randomly in different sizes. I placed my coral reefs on top just to see how it was going to look. When I'm happy with the shape, I tape it together and add some aluminium foil to give it more shape. Next, I'm going to cover my treasure chest with plastic so it doesn't get dirty. I'm then going to make my octopus shape. I used a plastic egg from an inside of an Easter egg and a yogurt pot. And then I cut 8 pieces of wire. I wasn't sure how long I wanted it, so I cut it extra long and I taped them on to a yogurt pot. I'm then using aluminium foil to make the shape as close as I can to the octopus. I've printed out a few octopus pictures to help me. The next step is to take our air dry clay. I got it in 2 colors, terracotta and white. To smoothen the clay or to add wet clay to dry clay, make sure you add water by dipping your fingers in some water and smoothing it out with your fingers. The next step is to add the corals to the rock. I've waited for the clay to dry. Now I'm using some hot glue just to keep the coral in place. Then I'm using some fresh clay to wrap it round the base of the coral so it looks kind of grown in to the rock. And that's my coral reef done. In the end, I had a few blank patches that I wanted filling, so I went to my local dollar store, went into the aquarium section and bought a few little coral reefs plus some shells and little starfish. Moving back to my octopus, I'm putting the first layer of clay. I'm not worried too much at this stage about how it looks because we're always going to add more clay to it. Adding the clay also gave me a better idea of how long I wanted the tentacles, so I just cut off the ends of the wire with some pliers. So here my very first layer is done. I've waited for it to dry so that I can now easily add more clay to it, making sure I use water to make sure the new clay will stick to the dry clay. I then repeated this process a couple of more times until I was happy with the shape of my octopus. To help me out with this, I'm using some clay tools, these little sticks with metal balls on the end of them. To give the octopus skin some texture, I'm using some aluminium foil and pressing it against the clay. I'm using glass cabochons for the eyes. By the way, if you've seen my other videos, you know that I love working with air dry clay. If you like this tutorial, you might like these other videos which I've made using air dry clay. To make a sucker, I made a little ball, stuck it onto the tentacle, and then used my little clay tool to make a little hole in it. Just FYI, if you're making this for an under the sea party, or in my case, the Little Mermaid party, this underwater background looks fantastic with a balloon arch. I'm going for a Little Mermaid color scheme. Thanks to the bright colors of the coral reef, I think any kind of color scheme would do here. I also hung some shark and fish balloons from the ceiling using invisible thread, and I stuck little paper fishies all over the walls using either blue tack or electrical tape so as not to damage the walls. Now that I've finished sculpting my octopus, it's ready to be painted, starting with a darker color first. Now that my octopus is done, the paint has been finished, I've added these fabulous gold coins. Look at them shining in the sun. How fantastic does that look? But looking back now at the project, I would have made the tentacles a little bit shorter. Why? Because I tried to move this octopus to the middle of the table, and in doing so, I ended up breaking a little bit of some of the tentacles. To avoid this, I would make the tentacles a little bit shorter and closer to the body. Make them a bit thicker, or if you like the drama of the long tentacles, I would use a wooden board, maybe out of thin plywood, as a base, right from the very beginning of the project. That way, if you need to pick it up and move it, you can just pick it up with the board. If you do end up breaking a tentacle, you can use some air dry clay again, just add it to the tentacle, wait for it to dry, and then repaint it. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Please do subscribe if you haven't already.